We are hoping to have our office set up and open within the week. So it's already kind of in the middle of the week, so we just have a few days left. James, that's not being honest. No. Well, do you own a toy car to give?
Yeah. Justin said it.
No, that's dishonest advertisement.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for your help. When we sell the first car out of here, it'll be a lot of fun. So, but thank you so much for your help. Everything looks a lot better.
Hey guys, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. It is Wednesday, September 15th. It's the middle of September already. I'm trying to soak in the last few remaining warm days in Minnesota, and I'm having such a tough time like putting away my summer clothes. So if you see me looking summery, that's why. Now, it is the middle of September, and last week, the U.S. attorneys filed responses to Josh Duggar's motions for dismissing the case and suppressing evidence. And over the last few days, multiple media outlets have reported on what I reported last week. And there was a report done by Radar Online that I actually thought was interesting, and it made me re-look at one of the motions for dismissal based on the government's failure to preserve evidence based on witness statements. So one of the things that I think is that Josh Duggar is afraid of his witnesses' testimony. And I think because of that, instead of trying to attack their testimony, he wants to effectively say the government didn't preserve evidence, because if he can say that, then those three witnesses won't be able to testify against him in court. Now, that was sort of a point brought up, I think, either by Radar or Hollywood Gossip, and it actually makes a lot of sense to me. So here is what his people are arguing. So Josh Duggar and his attorneys, via their motion to dismiss, basically claims that the government interviewed three separate men, believed to be men, that were part of Josh Duggar's business. All of them had been interviewed at or around the time of the raid in November of 2019 and December of 2019. During those interviews, each one of the witnesses were interviewed about their involvement at the car lot and whether or not they had access to computers, and also just when they worked there, if they were there at the date and the time, all of that, and what their familiarity was with the various peer-to-peer networks and the internet and all of that. Each one of these men were able to give sort of corroborating evidence, and even one of them was able to corroborate one of the other persons. So, and none of them, according to the police or the investigators in this case, suggested that they had any involvement in this. So Josh's key of his motion to dismiss was about a person of interest that he claimed that they had labeled one of the witnesses, which he said was witness number one. So his argument was that witness number one admitted to investigators that he worked at the car lot at various times, and that on several occasions he even stayed at the car lot overnight without Duggar's knowledge or permission. HSI expressly noted in its official report that it was interviewing person number one as a person of interest to the investigation. And they say that they did it, they investigated everything, they didn't find anything, and that the witness number one had admitted at one point to viewing adult content on websites that he accessed through the internet on his phone. But when they asked him if he had viewed anything related to CSAM, he said no. And their search of his phone provided no content of it and nothing. And so when he was then interviewed, the government, in their response to that, basically says that witness number one, here's what they say about witness number one. So their response to that he was there at the car lot with, no permission at times, blah, blah, blah. This is what they say, that this individual told law enforcement that he had purchased multiple vehicles from the defendant, but denied ever entering the small office of the defendant's car lot without an employee present. So even if he was staying overnight at the car lot without Josh's permission, he apparently told police office or the agents that no, I was never in that specific area of I didn't go into the office. Maybe he was like sleeping in his car, who knows. And they also said that he never had any access to the small office without an employee present. He also had no familiarity with peer-to-peer file sharing programs. He was not in the vicinity of the car lot in 2019, and they allowed law enforcement to do a review of his cell phone, which he had recently purchased in 2019, October, and there was nothing on there that they could link to anything. So to further corroborate that individual's interview, witness number 2 kind of backed up that person. So they went on to interview witness number 2, and he's the one that told them about the Covenant Eyes and that, he had worked there, but it was only until September of 2018, and that he was never actually at the vicinity and at that time frame. When witness number 2 was interviewed by the police, basically what they said is that witness number 2 says, I don't think witness number 1 has any sort of he's not computer savvy, and I don't think that he has any knowledge of peer-to-peer networks, and he's never mentioned it to me at all. They also say that, so witness number 1 says, I was at the car lot, but I was never in the house or the office. Witness number 2 says, I know witness number 1, and I don't think they're computer savvy. Plus, they've never mentioned anything about it to me, and I don't believe that they would even know what this stuff is. His smoking gun was supposed to be that this ex-con set him up. Well, the ex-con was apparently in jail, which was witness number 2, at the time that Josh was in the downloading stuff on his computer. And the only other employee that he had at that time denied that he was ever allowed to use the computer, and he apparently didn't even work there until June. So that is witness number 3. So witness number 3 said that he worked at the car lot and he started in June, and he did not access the internet at work, and that the computer in the office on the car lot belonged to and was only used by the defendant, so only used by Josh. This individual also told law enforcement that he was very inexperienced with computers and did not have social media accounts. After obtaining consent, they reviewed everything and they found nothing on his phone. And then they further asserted that according to business records that were obtained from Josh, the first paycheck that this person received was on May 31st, 2019, and there are no records of payments to any employees who worked at the dealership on the 14th and 15th. That was when they were queued up, that stuff was on his computer. So I believe that what's going on here with all of that confusion, I wish they would have used names, it would have been a lot easier, is that Josh doesn't want them to testify, because witness number 3 can get up on the stand and say, I was there around this time frame, I was not there on those dates, and I certainly did not use those computers. I was not allowed to use these computers. And that testimony, if on record, would be considered, they say the whole truth, nothing but the truth. If he testifies under oath, that's solid, right? And then you also have witness number 1 coming in and saying, yeah, I bought a couple of cars from him and I might have worked there on and off, but I have zero experience with this kind of stuff. I don't have any computer technology at all. And then you have witness number 2 basically saying the same thing. I was there between X date and X date. I did not work there during that time. I was not there during that time. And witness number 1, my friend, also was not there during that time, and he doesn't know anything about this kind of stuff and wouldn't know how to do this kind of stuff. He doesn't have the skills to know about this kind of stuff. So they basically just want to get rid of these 3 people that effectively say, I didn't do it, and there's evidence to prove that this person wasn't there. I didn't do it, and there's evidence to prove that this person was in jail. And I didn't do it, and there's evidence to prove, again, that this person was not there or near that place on those 2 dates that content was downloaded. You've got them saying, if I did use the computers, he was always there. I didn't use the computers, and I was incarcerated. Josh Duggar is petrified because his evidence or his defense relies on the fact that he wants to blame one of these people for doing this. if they're able to testify and say, it wasn't me, then, right, it kind of blows his defense. So instead of trying to tackle the defense and actually tackle the evidence in this case, he wants to tackle the credibility of these people and then also tackle the whole entire investigation and say that, well, the government didn't leave me evidence because I needed this evidence for my defense. It makes no logical sense that they would need to keep any evidence for people that, one, were not there at the time, were not involved in this, their computers showed no evidence of it. You know, if one guy's incarcerated, seriously, he wasn't there. So it's a lot of just smoke and mirrors, which is probably why the government was really annoyed with his response, calling it, you know, not an unusual tactic, but again, you know, predictable in that they would want this not in there. But Josh doesn't want them to testify. That's my opinion after reading this again and taking a look at this. And Jim Bob is betting on it that it was one of these three people. But these three people weren't there. So if none of these people were there and their defense relies on one of those three people being the smoking gun, you know, they're throwing things at the wall hoping it'll stick. And in this case, I don't think it will. So I don't know that this will actually move forward. They have a hearing in a couple weeks. Josh's team does have a right to respond to these motions that were or these responses that the government made, and they have until like next Friday to respond. So we'll see how his lawyers respond to this, but it all comes down to Josh wants to just get rid of all of the evidence. He wants to get rid of his own statements. He wants to get rid of their statements because they are not congruent with his defense. They want to get rid of all of the evidence collected by saying that it was illegally obtained through bunk search warrants. He just wants to make it all go away through a variety of different reasons because he can't actually defend the evidence. And that's my opinion. Tell me what your thoughts are about this in the comments below. Bye, guys.